Well, they're looking to bring the Sauger fish back to Lake Erie. Joining me today to tell us more about it, we have Schott. She is, of course, the Wildlife Communication Specialist with the Ohio Division of Wildlife. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me again.
Okay, so I've never heard of this fish before.
Yeah.
Give us some background about this fish.
Yeah, so a Sauger is really similar to a walleye, which most of us in Ohio are familiar with,
heard
right?
That one.
So very, very similar. Their growth patterns might be a little bit different. They might be a little bit more slow growing than walleye and typically don't reach like the size that a walleye might, like that really large size fish. But as far as their life history, the taste of the fillets from a Sauger, very similar.
Okay. All right, so what happened to them? Why do you have to reintroduce them?
Sure, yeah. So Sauger are a native fish to Ohio, to both the Ohio River watershed and to Lake Erie watershed, including Lake Erie. So they existed here hundreds of years ago, and they were an important fishery for early settlers, Native Americans, and all of that. But then as people started coming to Ohio in droves of millions, Lake Erie was very attractive for its fishery and then also commercial fishing. So in the late 1800s, early 1900s, kind of moving into the 1950s, commercial fishing was unregulated and was a big thing in Lake Erie, and lots of fish were overharvested in the commercial fishery, but Sauger was one of them. So they were commercially harvested, in the early 1900s, and then their population and that fishery kind of collapsed in the 1950s.
All right, so they're native to Ohio, so I understand that of course you want to have them, but I mean, what are the benefits of having them? Why is it so important to reintroduce them?
Sure. So first and foremost, as you said, the Division of Wildlife is always looking to restore and reintroduce our native wildlife and fish populations. But this fish is also, part of that natural ecosystem, so it serves an important role in the cycle of Lake Erie.
Okay.
And it is also a great addition to our already existing amazing fishery. So Sauger can kind of serve as an additional fishery there, and it'll be very interesting to see how this works out, because they are a migratory fish species. So they will go out into the lake and they will also come back into the rivers to spawn, similar to walleye.
Okay.
But Sauger are a little bit more inclined to stay in rivers and bays where the walleye might not. So it's possible that we see with Sauger that there's an added fishery, a year-long added fishery in the Maumee and Sandusky rivers, and then even like Sandusky Bay and Muddy Creek Bay and things like that. So there might be an extra fishery where those walleye are there, but usually we only see walleye in the rivers in that month of April. We might see Sauger in those rivers and in that bay for an extended period of time and adding that additional fishery.
Because you put them in those areas because that's the easiest way to get to Lake Erie for them?
Yes. So there are really large rivers. They have that historical spawning ground for walleye, a number of fish, walleye, lake sturgeon, and then also Sauger. And then the Division of Wildlife worked with University of Toledo to assess Maumee and Sandusky rivers, specifically to assess them for spawning habitat for Sauger, and determined that those rivers can, and they do have that habitat to sustain a population. And so that's our target right now. And so we released them a pilot program about a month ago. We released a small amount, a relatively small amount, it depends on what your idea of small amount is.
It looked like a lot of them in the video.
But we released a total of 130,000, 65,000 in each river as a pilot project to see, are these fish going to survive and reproduce? Now, not all 130,000 are going to live because they're this small.
I was going to say, they're very tiny, so they're going to grow how fast?
Yeah, so they'll reach that 15 inches, which is kind of what we, in speaking in the Sauger and walleye terms, is that minimum inch requirement to legally keep one.
Okay.
So kind of that, catchable eating size, so to say. They'll reach 15 inches in 2, 3, maybe 4 years, somewhere around there. Very similar to a walleye, but again, possibly more slow growing. But yeah, so those little guys, some of them got gobbled up right away by other
fish. I was going to say, it's not something that you would catch on your hook because they're so small.
Yeah, we're not going to catch these little guys right now, but in the years to come, hopefully.
All right. So how long do you think it'll take for this program to really see if it worked?
Yeah, so right now we're planning to do at least 10 years of this program to see, are these fish surviving? Are they reproducing? Are we having an established population? And that 10 years is, for a fish like this, is pretty normal.
Hopefully they like it, right?
And hopefully they like it. We've done this before in the 70s on a shorter term, and it didn't go so well, but we have had a lot of improvements since then, so we're hoping for
fingers crossed, right?
Yes.
We're going to see them around. Okay, very interesting. Thanks for telling us about it today.
Thank you.